Welcome to part 2 of my Ash Ketchum roleplay run series, where I try my best to replicate Ash's journey through every region until he becomes the champion. In part 1, Ash challenged Pokemon Yellow, where he struggled hard with unevolved starters, terrible movesets, and uncontrollable Pokemon. We discovered Ash's inexperience held him back, but his heart and dedication to Pokemon battling carried him forward. Unfortunately, we can't just roleplay Ash through Crystal as easily as we stuck him in Yellow. Pokemon Yellow was specifically designed to be an anime-adjacent playthrough, with gym leaders and encounters specifically changed to allow the player to catch Ash's final team. Crystal isn't that. If we were to go by purely vanilla Crystal, Pikachu wouldn't be available until the post-game, and we'd only be able to run one Johto starter. So, before we can test Ash's strategies, we need to make a few modifications first. Luckily, quick Googling helped me find some awesome tools to do just that. First, I changed Ash's starter to Pikachu. Then, I modified Wild Encounters to allow Ash to catch each of his Pokemon at an equivalent level and location that he caught them in the anime. And originally, that was all I was going to change. But then I started thinking. In my Pokemon Yellow video, a lot of the time I couldn't accurately test Ash's strategies because the gym leaders were different in the anime than they were in the game. One of my goals with this series is to grade Ash's performance as a trainer, to help figure out why he won or lost each league. So, with way too much power, I changed every single gym leader to their anime-accurate counterparts. Gym leaders are going to keep their in-game levels, but, for better or worse, their movesets and Pokemon are going to be changed to their anime movesets, and Ash is going to have to battle them with even Pokemon counts. I've also added some additional surprises in the late game, and I'm very happy with how they worked out. Ash starts his journey with Pikachu, which gives us one final rules dilemma to work out. At the end of his Kanto journey, Pikachu is level 63 with Thunderbolt, Thunder, Quick Attack, and Agility. I think we can all agree that giving Ash a level 63 Pikachu would make this playthrough very boring. In the anime, Pikachu is a level chameleon anyway, usually having close fights against any opponent regardless of its strength. So I'm starting with a level 5 Pikachu. The question is whether this Pikachu should keep its Kanto moveset. In the anime, Pikachu keeps its moveset, and I considered doing the same, but I couldn't get the moveset editor working. So I didn't mess with the level up movesets, did a complete playthrough, started working on the script, and then started having second thoughts. I can't accurately grade Ash's anime strategies when I'm nerfing him with Thundershock and Ember. So I switched to Pokemon Gold to fix the moveset editor and redid the playthrough using Ash's actual movesets. Let's go! Ash starts his Johto journey strong, catching 2 Pokemon before Falkner. His first Mon is Heracross, a very powerful fighting and bug-type Pokemon with fully evolved stats. This Pokemon starts off with a moveset of Tackle, Horn Attack, and Endure. A base 60 power move coming from base 125 attack stat is going to do some massive damage to anyone. What a start! Maybe this playthrough will be pretty easy after all. Ash also catches a Chikorita, which starts with Razor Leaf and Vine Whip. Chikorita can only learn Vine Whip as an egg move. Apparently, Ash's Chikorita canonically has a Victory Bell, Venusaur, or Tangela as a father. That's neat. Unfortunately for Ash, having Vine Whip is a straight up nerf to his strategies, because it's just a worse move than Razor Leaf. I get why the anime wanted Vine Whip. In the anime, it's a versatile move that gives access to a ton of awesome anime strategies. But in this playthrough, it's terrible. Unfortunately for Chikorita and Heracross, Johto's first gym leader is Falkner, a flying type trainer. Falkner in the anime has Hoot Hoot, Dodrio, and Pidgeot. Wait, 2 fully evolved Pokemon for a first gym leader? That seems a little unfair, right? Well, it would be, but Charizard. Right now, the writers still aren't exactly sure how to handle new regions, so Ash is training up a new team while also relying on his old Kanto Pokemon. I think that's kinda boring, and the writers seem to agree with me. After the Falkner fight, Ash leaves his Charizard at the Charizard Valley, and doesn't use his Kanto Pokemon in gym battle again until Flare. Ash's Kanto team have had their time to shine already. I want to see what he can do with his Johto Pokemon. So in this playthrough, I'm going to be testing what Ash's Johto team is capable of doing, and not using his Kanto team at all. Whew, that was some long exposition. Now let's check in on Ash to see what he cooked up for his fight against Falkner. Ash starts with Chikorita, while Falkner leads Hoot Hoot. Falkner is critical of the choice, and he's right to be, as Hoot Hoot dominates this battle. Chikorita uses Vine Whip a few times and Razor Leaf once, but Hoot Hoot dodges everything. Then Hoot Hoot counters with Tackle and Peck, knocking Chikorita out without taking any damage. Next up, Ash sends in Pikachu, which uses Agility, Thunderbolt, and Quick Attack to dominate Hoot Hoot, evening the score at 1-1. Pikachu tries to use Agility again, but Dodrio counters with an Agility of its own. Pikachu uses Thunderbolt, but Dodrio dodges by jumping high into the air, then hits Pikachu hard with Fury Attack. It then uses Drill Peck and Tri-Attack, but Pikachu dodges the Tri-Attack by jumping into the air. Pikachu uses its height to launch a Thunder, and Dodrio faints. Last up, Falkner sends out Pidgeot. Pikachu is tired but still wants to fight, so Ash orders Thunderbolt. Pikachu tries to use it, but doesn't have enough energy to reach Pidgeot, so Pidgeot uses Whirlwind to knock Pikachu out. This sets us up for a climactic finale where Charizard beats Pidgeot. When Charizard's wing gets injured, Falkner asks Ash to forfeit, but Ash isn't having that. He analyzes Pidgeot's patterns and calls the right moves to give Charizard the win. Now, this team doesn't make much sense to put in the game, but we're going to try anyway. In this series, I'm going to match the levels of the original Gym Leaders teams, but replace their movesets and Pokemon with the anime. Under this system, Falkner has a level 7 Hoot Hoot, a level 9 Dodrio, and a level 9 Pidgeot with their anime movesets. If Ash had used Heracross instead of Charizard, could he still win this battle with his strategies? Let's find out! The anime clearly got Hoot Hoot vs Chikorita right. Vine Whip is doing nothing to Hoot Hoot, and Peck takes out Ash's plant dinosaur. Then, Ash sends in Pikachu, takes a little damage to set up Agility, and annihilates Hoot Hoot with Thunderbolt. Then, Falkner sends out Dodrio. Pikachu uses Agility again, so Dodrio goes for Tri-Attack, knocking out the mouse. Then, Dodrio uses Drill Peck on Heracross, ending the battle in a victory for Falkner. So, Ash's strategies don't work in the game, but I'm actually going to defend the anime here. In the anime, speed is, correctly I'd argue, treated very differently than in the games. In the anime, speed basically gives a Pokemon increased accuracy and evasion, so Agility is basically redefined as a move that temporarily greatly increases a Pokemon's accuracy and evasion. Many anime strategies are dumb, but I'm not going to make fun of Ash using Agility here. It makes sense in context. Unfortunately, using Agility a second time doesn't make sense in the games. So what happens in a rematch when Ash uses Thunderbolt instead? Well, in my second battle, Pikachu crits Dodrio, then crits Pidgeot, one-shotting both of Falkner's fully evolved Pokemon. Pikachu just soloed his team, and Ash didn't need Charizard after all. I'm going to reluctantly put this fight under Ash had the Pokemon, but not the strategy. But more realistically, he was kind of bailed out by Charizard. However, even more realistically, Falkner shouldn't have had this team in the first place, and Ash should have been fine with Pikachu. Moving on. After defeating Falkner, Ash makes a few upgrades to his team. Heracross learns 3 new moves, Leer, Takedown, and Fury Attack. These are honestly kind of underwhelming when compared with Horn Attack, so it doesn't change the Pokemon very much. Chikorita learns Tackle, which is a bit underwhelming, but can be somewhat useful against grass resists, and Sweet Scent, a move that lowers the target's evasion. This also doesn't really change our plant much. Ash also catches another Pokemon, one that's going to be immediately useful and become the all-star of this team. Cyndaquil is a fire type that starts with Tackle and... wait, really anime? Again? So in Pokemon Yellow, Charmander's starting moveset was Flamethrower and nothing else, so I allowed it to use Ember before it naturally learned Flamethrower. In this run though, I'm going to just give Cyndaquil Flamethrower immediately, which is kind of insane. In my first run, Cyndaquil didn't get Flamethrower until level 46, so I'm expecting a few battles to be a bit easier now. In the anime, Ash's Cyndaquil also has some problems it needs to work through. This Pokemon has a really hard time lighting its fire, and can't use its fire-type moves immediately after ending a battle. So, to simulate that, I'm going to give Cyndaquil its own version of Slow Start. When Cyndaquil enters this battle, I cannot use a fire-type move until it's been out at least 3 turns. With the fire-type, Ash is set to crush Bugsy, but will Cyndaquil's Slow Start prevent him from earning his badge? Let's check in with the anime to build his team and prepare our strategy. Now, you might expect Cyndaquil's inability to immediately use Fire-type moves to hurt it, but Ash actually does something really smart. He sends Cyndaquil out first against Bugsy's Spinarak. This Spinarak is really bad, with just String Shot and Poison Sting. So, Cyndaquil dodges a few String Shots, gets slowed down by a String Shot, and gets hit by a Poison Sting. Then, Ash recalls Cyndaquil, sending out Chikorita. Misty, Brock, and Bugsy all disapprove of Ash's decision to send out a Grass type against Spinarak, but Ash has faith in Chikorita to handle it. Now, pay attention, because in my opinion, this next fight is the most important battle in this entire arc for Ash's character. Spinarak uses String Shot, Chikorita dodges and uses Vine Whip, then Spinarak dodges this by String Shotting itself up a tree. Spinarak dodges Vine Whip Spider-Man style, but Chikorita blocks Poison Sting with its Razor Leaf. Then, Chikorita uses Sweet Scent to stop Spinarak from moving, and defeats it with Tackle. Chikorita is flying high having beaten Spinarak, but then Bugsy sends out Metapod, blocks some attacks with Harden, and one-shots Chikorita with Tackle. So, I want you to really pay attention here. Ash has gambled with an unproven Chikorita in 2 gym battles now. It lost to a Hoothoot, beat a Spinarak, and got one-shot by Metapod. A Metapod that Pikachu easily dodges and handles low diff with Thunderbolt. Both times Ash uses Chikorita, Pikachu effortlessly took down the Pokemon that beat it. Keep this in mind as we analyze Ash's later decisions, because I think there's a subtle character arc here. After Metapod goes down, Bugsy claims that Ash is the first trainer who's gone to the 3rd round with him in a long time. Really? Most trainers can't beat Spinarak and Metapod? That's kinda pathetic, but Bugsy's last Pokemon, Scyther, is another story. Pikachu uses Agility then Thunderbolt, but Scyther dodges with Double Team. Pikachu spams Thunderbolt, Scyther dodges and uses repeated Fury Cutters, and Pikachu faints. Ash's last Pokemon is Cyndaquil, who's still without its flames. So, Cyndaquil dodges Fury Cutter, finally heats up, then uses Flamethrower. Bugsy responds by, blocking Flamethrower with Swords Dance, before hitting Cyndaquil with Fury Cutter. Okay, I defended the anime in the Faulkner fight, but that's not how Swords Dance works. Actually, this is interesting, so let's talk about it. In competitive Pokemon, a successful trainer is someone who understands and accepts the strengths and weaknesses of all of their Pokemon, then figures out how to use them in perfect sync with one another. There are ways to make Pokemon better against their supposed counters with EV spreads or coverage moves, but most of the time, battling is never about making sure your individual Pokemon can beat everything. Instead, the goal is making sure your team can beat everything, then putting your Pokemon in the right positions to succeed. Basically, a competitive Pokemon player will never expect Scyther to take on most fire types, but instead find ways to use Scyther with teammates that can take out the fire types, and help Scyther's strengths shine. For example, if I were building a Scyther team, I might pair it with a Quagsire, a Pokemon that resists rock and fire, is immune to electric, and could bait in a grass type that Scyther might be able to set up Swords Dance against. In the anime, the focus is on individual matchups, so the mark of a great trainer is someone who can train their Pokemon to handle any opponent regardless of type matchups. So the anime is trying to make Bugsy look like a trainer who's trained his Bug-type Pokemon to handle fire types. True experts in the anime develop strategies to throw out the type chart and make sure their Pokemon emerge victorious no matter what. To competitive players, this entire way of thinking feels backwards, but it does make sense in the anime when there are so many more ways to train Pokemon than in the games. I kinda get what the anime was going for here, but it's also stupid. Swords Dance shouldn't be a defensive move. Just have Scyther dodge it with Double Team, or use Light Screen to reduce its damage. That way Bugsy could combine the defensive moves with Swords Dance, using its increased longevity to set up its massive attack stat. So how does Ash counter this? Well, he has Cyndaquil jump above Scyther, start spinning in the same direction as Scyther's Swords Dance, then use Flamethrower from above. Sure. Okay, let's see how well these strategies translate to the games. The first couple turns of the battle, Cyndaquil doesn't use any moves, so to simulate that, I throw Pokeballs at the Spinarak. Bugsy just uses String Shot twice, so I don't even take any damage, then I switch to Chikorita. My plant's Vine Whip does nothing to the Spinarak, and the bug fires back with Poison Stings. I'm about to attempt Ash's Sweet Scent and Tackle combo, but before I can pull that off, Chikorita faints. Ouch. Pikachu comes in and uses Agility, then Thunderbolt, dominating Spinarak. Metapod comes in next, and I do the same thing, one-shotting Metapod without taking a hit. It's just a Scyther left, and I go back to Agility, then spam Thunderbolt. Scyther attacks with Fury Cutter and Slash, doing a ton of damage, but Pikachu hits with the second Thunderbolt to end the battle. So once again, Pikachu just sweeps the fight. Now, while that looked easy, this battle was only easy because Ash had overpowered super effective moves. In my first run, when I had Thundershock and Ember instead of Thunderbolt and Flamethrower, Bugsy's Scyther was a menace that defeated me several times. If that thing had set up with Swords Dance, it could one-shot everything on Ash's team with Slash. So Ash wins here pretty easily with his anime strategies, but he also just had a really good matchup. That Scyther is legit, it was already strong in the games and only got buffed in the anime. After beating Bugsy, Ash keeps working on his team. Cyndaquil learns Smokescreen, which might sound underwhelming, but is unironically going to be one of its best moves this playthrough. Ash also catches 2 additional Pokemon. First off, we have Totodile, which starts with Water Gun, Bite, Scratch, and Tackle. Well, not Tackle. Totodile can't actually use Tackle in the games. Our Water starter's other moves are fine, but, well, I'm gonna be honest, Totodile is really bad. It's not Squirtle level bad, but it's easily the worst Pokemon on this team. Ash also catches a shiny Noctowl that starts with Peck and Hypnosis. So, I find a Noctowl, think really hard about nicknaming it shiny as a joke, catch it and forget to nickname it, then add it to the team. This regional bird struggles at dealing damage, but Hypnosis is always a useful move, so it should be a good supporting Pokemon. During this time, Ash also makes one more team adjustment. He, sends Heracross back to Professor Oak. Wait, what? Ash, what are you doing? You got an insane early game Pokemon, never used it in a major battle, then just sent it back? Ash never uses Heracross against any gym leaders and doesn't use Heracross in a major battle until the Johto League. Well, I learned from my crabby mistakes in Yellow, give Heracross the daycare, and move on. Heracross could have been so good. What a waste. As Ash reaches Goldenrod City, one thing is on his mind. He wants his gym battle. So let's check the anime and see how it goes. So the battle starts out really good for Ash. First, Cyndaquil makes quick work of Whitney's Nidorina. Then, Whitney's Clefairy goes for Metronome, and after a ton of anticipation, rolls Splash. Cyndaquil takes advantage and fires back with Flamethrower, so Whitney forfeits the point before sending in Miltank. Ash is super confident, but then Miltank starts rolling and the battle does a complete 180. Ash tries to stop Miltank with Cyndaquil's Tackle and Totodile's Water Gun, but they get rolled over. Then Ash sends in Pikachu, trying to use Thunderbolt on Miltank while it's still wet, but Miltank is rolling so fast it's dried off before the attack lands. Miltank's rollout gets stronger every turn, and Pikachu is pulverized. You know, sometimes I question if the Pokemon writers have even played the games, but I don't question it for this episode. This first battle looked perfect, and it really captured the feeling of going up against that Miltank for the first time. I even liked the Nidorina. It was added just to give Ash an excuse to lose 3 Pokemon instead of 2 against the Miltank. The Metronome into Splash Crack was great too. So, my gut tells me that this battle is realistic, but how did it go in the games? Well, Cyndaquil demolishes Nidorina, then Whitney makes the first change of the battle. The Gold AI sees Rollout as super effective against Cyndaquil, so she sends out Miltank and uses Rollout. Instead of dominating though, Whitney gets really unlucky, missing Rollout twice against Totodile, not KOing Pikachu with Rollout, then letting Pikachu take it out with Thunderbolt. The battle isn't over though, as Clefairy comes in against a 5 HP Pikachu. Pikachu 3 shots with Thunderbolt, giving Clefairy 2 chances to deal damage with Metronome. Her first Metronome rolls Sharpen, then her second rolls Boomerang. Woo, that was close. Ash wasn't supposed to win that, but I guess that's Pokemon for you. It's consistently inconsistent. If Whitney gets bad RNG, there is a path to victory. So how does Ash solve this monster? Well, his first try, he uses Tackle, Water Gun, Thunderbolt, then Agility. On his successful attempt, he uses Tackle, Water Gun, Agility, then Thunderbolt. Huh. This really shows the limitations of my tests, because in the anime, it's not about what moves you use, it's about how you use them. On his successful attempt, Cyndaquil uses Tackle defensively to tire Miltank out, and Totodile uses Water Gun on the ground to create trenches. Then Pikachu uses Agility to hide in the trenches, tripping up Miltank, launching the cow into the air, and leaving it open to Thunderbolt. As far as anime strategies go, I actually like this one. Ash uses his moves in a creative way to mess up the rollout combo. Unfortunately, I can't target Water Gun at the ground, so the only way I have to simulate Ash's updated strategy is to battle every available trainer before trying again. At higher levels, do Ash's strategies work? No. No, they do not. My second battle against Whitney is worse than my first one. When Whitney doesn't miss rollout, she two-shots Totodile and one-shots Pikachu. Ash's strategies are officially a bust, so it's time to try with his Pokemon instead. The actual solution to this battle is obvious, and makes me wish the anime had incorporated it. Instead of using Tackle, Cyndaquil just needs to use Smokescreen instead. Without its accuracy, Whitney's Miltank can't build up her rollout. Since she only uses rollout in the anime, her Miltank becomes easy pickings for Totodile and Pikachu. While I think Ash's strategy with Totodile is creative here, using Tackle with Cyndaquil has always been suspect, even with anime logic. I'm going to give Ash the grade of he had the Pokemon, but not the strategies for this fight. After defeating Whitney, Cyndaquil learns two more moves, Quick Attack and Swift. Quick Attack is kinda nice for priority, but Swift is going to be very niche. With Stab, a not very effective flamethrower has an effective power of 71.25, which is higher than Swift's power of 60. When considering Cyndaquil has a higher special attack than physical attack, Flamethrower is the correct move to use most of the time, even on targets that resist it. The more important moveset change, and the crux of Ash's strategy against Morty, is from Noctowl. Our shiny regional bird learns Whirlwind, Tackle, and Foresight. Luckily for Ash, Noctowl can only learn Whirlwind as an egg move, and he never uses this move in any major battles, so we aren't going to learn it. Tackle and Foresight, though, are going to be super important, because our next gym leader is a Ghost-type specialist. As I've watched more of the anime to research this series, the more I'm learning that when it comes to Pokemon mechanics, the writers act like puppies showing off their favorite toys. When they learn something new, the writers show it off, so proud of the little tidbit of knowledge they gained, determined to use it in their latest script. Last gym battle, they learned that rollout gets stronger every time it's used. This episode, they learn that ghosts are immune to all normal type moves, unless the ghost is hit by Foresight. In the anime, Ash leads with Noctowl and Morty leads with Ghastly. Noctowl starts with Hypnosis, but it can't hit Ghastly, which is disappearing. Noctowl uses Foresight to see the Ghastly, then starts attacking it with Tackle. Ghastly might be visible, but it's still fast and it keeps dodging, so Noctowl goes for Hypnosis. Ghastly dodges that too, then hits Noctowl with Lick, prompting Ash to switch to Pikachu. Pikachu hits Ghastly with Quick Attack, but misses a Thunderbolt. Ghastly takes advantage by using Nightshade and knocking out Pikachu in one hit. Ash sends out Cyndaquil, which starts with Flamethrower. Ghastly dodges and uses Nightshade, which Cyndaquil dodges with Quick Attack. Ghastly goes for a Lick, but Cyndaquil dodges it, jumps on Ghastly's tongue, and uses the tongue to knock out Ghastly with Tackle. Next up, Morty sends out Haunter, which dodges a Flamethrower then traps Cyndaquil with Mean Look. Cyndaquil hits Haunter with Swift, then Haunter uses Hypnosis. Cyndaquil uses Smokescreen to dodge, but Haunter just grabs Cyndaquil in the smoke, licks Cyndaquil, then throws the fire type on the ground, knocking it out. We're left with Noctowl against both of Morty's remaining Pokemon. Noctowl uses Foresight, Haunter tries to catch Noctowl with its hands, Noctowl dodges and uses Hypnosis, but Haunter overpowers the move with Confuse Ray. Noctowl is confused, and Morty suggests Ash forfeit, but Ash refuses. Then, Haunter uses Nightshade as Noctowl uses Tackle, and, this happens.
Taking that Nightshade attack at such close range canceled the Confusion Ray's effects.
This interaction also apparently lets Noctowl learn Confusion, which it uses to defeat Haunter. Morty sends out Gengar, which cancels the confusion with Shadow Ball, then fires a rapid string of Nightshades to prevent Noctowl from using Foresight. To counter this, Ash tells Noctowl to use Confusion through the whole building, hitting Gengar and giving Noctowl a chance to use Foresight. In a final clash, Noctowl's tackle overpowers Gengar's Shadow Ball, and Ash wins the badge. Okay, so this battle is something. Let's talk about it while I play my in-game battle on the screen. In this fight, Ash's underlying strategy is sound. Foresight does in fact let Noctowl hit Ghost with tackle. Foresight does remain active even after Noctowl switches out, letting Cyndaquil knock out Ghastly with tackle. Noctowl learning Confusion halfway through the battle to gain a super effective move against the Ghost is a really cool moment. These strategies are almost so good. I want to like this episode so much. I'll forgive that the only reason the writers introduced Noctowl using tackle is to distract from the fact that it doesn't need Foresight to hit Ghost types with Peck. I'll even forgive the writers for having Cyndaquil hit Haunter with Swift. They probably just forgot that Noctowl hadn't used Foresight on it. I mean, that was Morty's strategy to trap Cyndaquil in there with a Haunter that hadn't been Foresighted, but hey, keeping track of actual Pokemon strategy is really hard for these writers, and I appreciate them for trying. I'll forgive Noctowl learning Confusion about 20 levels earlier than it should, because Noctowl never should have learned Confusion at level 41 in the first place. What I can't forgive, though, is the writers clearly having no idea that Normal is immune to Ghost-type moves. None of these clever strategies even really matter, because Noctowl just crushes this fight no matter what it does. Morty's Pokemon just can't hurt Noctowl. The only way he can even damage Noctowl is with Confuse Ray. So, yeah, Noctowl is Ash's secret weapon. My battle plays out pretty similarly to the battle in the anime. It's just way less intense, because Noctowl is never in any real danger. To be fair, Morty doesn't really have a way to hit normal types in the games either. His best play there is to combine Curse and Mean Look. So, I guess Morty just kinda sucks at being a gym leader. With his secret weapon being the MVP, Ash's strategies are more than enough to easily earn his 4th gym badge. So far, Ash's Chikorita has been embarrassingly incompetent. Ash brought it to his first 2 gym battles, where it lost to Hoot Hoot and Metapod, then avoided it for the next 2. Sure, it had a type disadvantage, but when your claim to fame is defeating Spinarak, which it didn't even do in my playthrough, I mean, that's pretty bad. Chikorita knows that if she doesn't do something fast, she's going to become the new Squirtle. Determined to avoid this fate, Chikorita locks in. Between Morty and Chuck, Chikorita takes her training more seriously than she ever has before, evolving into Bayleaf and learning Body Slam. This is massive. Seemingly overnight, Bayleaf became Ash's most consistent Pokemon, taking hits like a champ and dishing out strong damage in return to pretty much anything. Bayleaf has definitely grown, but is it going to be enough for Ash to get his next badge? Let's go back to the anime to form our strategy. Ash leads with Pikachu against Chuck's Poliwrath, starting the battle with a string of Thunderbolts. Poliwrath dodges for a while, but eventually gets hit. Pikachu follows up with Quick Attack, but Poliwrath easily stomachs it. Then, Poliwrath knocks out Pikachu with a single, double slap. Wow. Okay then. Ash thinks about it, coming to the conclusion that his only Pokemon with an advantage against Poliwrath is his Grass type. This isn't true. Noctowl with Peck and Confusion is right there, but it's also Noctowl, so I guess I understand not counting it. So, Ash sends out Bayleaf, which dodges a Water Gun, then knocks out Poliwrath with Razor Leaf, Vine Whip, and Body Slam. We end the battle with Bayleaf versus Machoke. Machoke hits Bayleaf with Karate Chop, but Bayleaf pulls in Machoke with Vine Whip. Bayleaf and Machoke play Tug of War, which Machoke wins. Then, Machoke uses Submission, throwing Bayleaf. The plant monster recovers by using Vine Whip to pick up Machoke and throw it on the ground. Bayleaf then follows it up with a Body Slam and Razor Leaf, knocking out Machoke. Honestly, as far as anime strategies go, this one was pretty reasonable. My only complaint is Chuck's Poliwrath running Double Slap. However, will it hold up in the games? Let's find out. Actually, before we play the real footage, I want to show you what happened in my first playthrough here, where Pikachu was slightly underleveled. I went into this thinking losing to a Double Slap Poliwrath was one of Pikachu's most embarrassing moments, but Yeah, that actually happened. Okay, let's go to the final playthrough now. Pikachu starts the battle by two-shotting Poliwrath with Thunderbolt, but takes a ton from Double Slap in the process. Then, Pikachu deals a third to Machoke before going down. Bayleaf comes in and uses Vine Whip twice. Machoke misses 2 cross chops, then Bayleaf takes the KO with Body Slam. So Ash got lucky here, but that's also on Chuck for using inaccurate moves. This battle is volatile and could easily go either way, but this time, Ash earned the badge with his strategies. Ash only gets one moveset upgrade in the next section of the game. Totodile learns Headbutt, which quickly becomes the Gator's strongest move. As a physical attacker, Headbutt deals significantly more damage than Water Gun, and the flinch dance is kinda nice. We could go straight to Jasmine next, but she has a very powerful Steelix Ash's team is not equipped to deal with yet, so I go through the Rocket plotline first. The number one priority here is training Cyndaquil, because our fire starter is coming with Pikachu to the next gym. In the anime, Jasmine leads with Magnemite while Ash leads with Pikachu. Pikachu spams Thunderbolt and Magnemite spams Thunder Wave, but neither Pokemon is able to hit the other. Ash decides to make his move, letting Pikachu get hit by a Thunder Wave, then retaliating with Thunderbolt. Jasmine continues spamming Thunder Wave, but Pikachu dodges, hits Magnemite with Quick Attack, and knocks the Magnemite out. Jasmine sends out Steelix next, and Pikachu is pretty tired. He uses Thunderbolt, and Jasmine decides to let Steelix take a hit to set herself up for a retaliation hit, using Iron Tail. Pikachu dodges, uses a Quick Attack that backfires and hurts Pikachu, then Jasmine finishes off the mouse with Iron Tail. Our finale is Cyndaquil vs Steelix. Cyndaquil uses Flamethrower, which Steelix blocks with Sandstorm. Then Steelix uses Dig and Iron Tail, both of which Cyndaquil dodges. These events happen again, and Cyndaquil barely dodges by using Flamethrower at the wall to change direction. Steelix goes underground a third time, but this time, Ash uses Smokescreen to dodge. Jasmine uses Sandstorm to, blow away the Smokescreen. But when it clears, Cyndaquil is underground in Steelix's holes, landing a point-blank Flamethrower at Steelix. Ash tries to hide underground again, but Steelix uses Iron Tail to collapse the tunnels and forces Cyndaquil out of hiding. Steelix hits Cyndaquil with another Iron Tail, and it looks like it's over, but Cyndaquil gets back up. Steelix comes in with a Crunch, Cyndaquil dodges with Smokescreen, then fires one last Flamethrower. Steelix tries to counter it with Sandstorm, but Cyndaquil keeps going, turning the Sandstorm into a makeshift Fire Spin. This burns the Steelix and knocks it out, earning Ash the badge. Okay, wow, that was a lot. So, I have a theory here. I know it looks bad that Pikachu lost to a ground type, which hasn't happened in a major battle since Brock, but I have an explanation for this. This sounds crazy, but hear me out. I do not think the writers knew that Steelix is a ground type. Exhibit A, the original Magnemite Pokemon card. In the games, Thunder Wave doesn't deal damage and paralyzes the opponent, but in this episode, it was clearly a weak electric type move that deals damage. When Pikachu took the move, it got hurt, and when the move was over, it was not paralyzed, and Jasmine continued to spam the move after it landed. Therefore, I believe that this writer got the majority of their information about Pokemon from the Pokemon cards. Exhibit B, the Jasmine Steelix card. This card has a weakness to Fire-type moves and a resistance to Grass-type moves. In the games, Steelix is neutral to Grass because of its ground typing, but the cards are specifically misleading here. They still represent Steelix's poison immunity and bug resistance, but it also gives no indication of any secondary typings. Exhibit C. Brock and Misty never mention Steelix's ground typing, despite there being many opportunities to do so. Pikachu's Thunderbolt is animated as though it did at least a little bit of damage, and Brock theorizes that Jasmine is using Ash's tactic from earlier, taking a hit to make it easier to land a hit. There is no mention of electric immunity. Exhibit D. Pikachu lost because it was tired after the Magnemite battle. The writers were not telegraphing Pikachu being at a disadvantage because of its typing, only telegraphing a disadvantage through exhaustion. Exhibit E. Brock believes Cyndaquil had a clear advantage over Steelix due to its steel typing, but made no mention of ground being strong against fire. Exhibit F. Later on, when Ash fights Harrison in the Silver League, Ash uses Snorlax's Ice Punch to finish off Steelix. Then, Ash says this.
I had a feeling Ice Punch would work even against a Steel Pokemon. Good thing I didn't worry too much about Pokemon type or I would have missed that chance.
This implies the writers thought Steelix resisted Ice-type moves, but that Snorlax is so powerful it didn't matter. Conclusion? Based on the evidence, I can only conclude that the writers thought Steelix was a mono-Steel type. Pikachu's winning streak against ground types came to an end by complete accident. Okay, so in the games this battle is a lot shorter. Magnemite is trivial because its only move is Thunder Wave, but the Steelix is terrifying. Basically, this battle is determined by whether Cyndaquil can two-shot Steelix while surviving a dig. At level 23, right after beating Chuck, Cyndaquil is nowhere close to winning. Unfortunately, my footage for this battle got corrupted, so we're going to go back to the first run for this. Cyndaquil has Flame Wheel instead of Flamethrower here, but the battle goes basically the same. Even at level 34, Cyndaquil still can't survive Dig. At level 35 though, it's a different story. At equal levels, Cyndaquil survives Dig on 3 HP, then 2 hit KOs with Flame Wheel. When Cyndaquil has Flamethrower, it can also get by with a critical hit Flamethrower on a slightly lower level, which is what happened in my second playthrough. So the anime battle is clearly the dramatized Hollywood edition of this battle, but Ash did order Flamethrower from Cyndaquil, and that's just barely capable of burning Steelix alive. So, that's another win for Ash's strategies. After Jasmine, I head straight to Price. The Ice-type gym leader has Dugong and Piloswine, so Ash uses Cyndaquil and Pikachu for the second straight battle. Obviously, Ash uses Pikachu against the Water type and Cyndaquil to outdamage the Ground type. Wait, no, I got that backwards. Ash uses Cyndaquil against the Water type and Pikachu against the Ground type. This might be bad. Cyndaquil fires off a Flamethrower, but Dugong jumps into the water to dodge it and uses Ice Beam, freezing Cyndaquil. Dugong uses Aurora Beam, but Cyndaquil thaws itself out and dodges the follow-up attack. They dodge each other's ranged attacks again, then Cyndaquil uses Quick Attack to jump into the pool and attack Dugong underwater. Price orders Dugong to use Headbutt to take out the swimming Cyndaquil, but once Dugong gets close, Cyndaquil uses Swift, knocking Dugong out of the water. Cyndaquil finishes with Flamethrower and KOs Dugong. Okay, pause. I'm sorry, but did Cyndaquil just dive underwater to fight Dugong? No, stay focused, Red Wings. We can talk about Price's complete failings as a trainer later. Let's finish the match. Price sends out Piloswine next. Ash orders Flamethrower, but Piloswine cancels it out with Blizzard. This freezes the pond in the center of the arena, allowing Piloswine to charge in and take Cyndaquil out with Takedown. Ash sends out Pikachu, and a lot of stuff happens here. Pikachu tries to use Agility, but is thwarted by the ice. Piloswine lands a couple of Blizzards, and Pikachu fires back with Thunder. Ash uses Agility again, this time playing Pinball with Ice Pillars. Pikachu uses a point-blank Thunder right underneath Piloswine, dealing a ton of damage, only for Piloswine to rest off the damage. Piloswine lands a Fury attack, and Price asks Ash to surrender, but Ash has already heard that speech twice and come out on top both times, so he's not going to fall for it. Pikachu lands some more Thunderbolts, breaking the ice and sending Piloswine into the water. Pikachu's next Thunderbolt is super effective, but Piloswine is still fighting and uses Fury attack. Pikachu hits a Thunder, and as both Pokemon are exhausted, Price forfeits the match. Okay, so first of all, Pikachu's redeemed itself against ground types. But I, once again, think this was accidental. I hate to say it, but I also don't think the writers knew Piloswine is a ground type. Brock and Misty never mention it despite clearly mentioning Dugong being an ice and water type, and Ash's entire strategy this battle was to spam electric attacks. So after watching Pikachu shock another ground type into oblivion, you might expect this battle to be really hard for Ash. I certainly did. Once again, my main playthrough footage got corrupted here, so while I play my first playthrough footage, I'm going to talk about why Ash's strategy actually wins. The thing is, the anime got Price right. In both the games and the anime, Price has zero coverage. If Dugong had any sort of water type move, or if Piloswine had Earthquake, Ash would have gotten destroyed in this battle. But he doesn't. Misty warns Ash early on in the battle that Dugong is a water and ice type, and if Dugong had a water type move, Ash's gambit to chase Dugong into the water would look like the biggest throw in gym battle history. However, Pryce is so obsessed with the ice type that he can't even see that his Pokemon are good because they're dual types. Basically, Pryce has nothing that can actually threaten Cyndaquil. In the games, Ash's Fire Starter easily sweeps both of Pryce's Pokemon, and we never even need to use Pikachu. You might be watching this video and thinking Ash is on a roll. Sure, the details aren't super pretty, but Ash's strategy has worked in this game 5 out of 7 times. That's insane. However, Ash defeating the gym leaders this way came at a cost. Remember how early on, Ash gave an untested Chikorita a chance in 2 straight gyms, only for the grass type to lose embarrassingly to Hoot Hoot and Metapod? Both times, Pikachu had to clean up Chikorita's messes, and after that, it really feels like Ash started trusting his Johto team less. In the first 7 gyms, Ash brought Pikachu to every single one, even when the matchup wasn't favorable. He found another favorite in Cyndaquil, bringing it to 4 of the 5 gyms it was on his team for. Bayleaf came to 3 gyms, but to only 1 of the last 5. Noctowl and Totodile came to only 1 gym battle each. I don't think this was completely intentional on the writer's part, but from my perspective, Ash was so focused on winning gym badges that he kinda lost touch with the rest of his team. So now, even though he's got 7 badges, his team kinda sucks. Noctowl and Totodile are almost unusable. Bayleaf is decent. Pikachu doesn't have the stats to carry the team, and his big bet on Cyndaquil isn't paying off with an evolution. To make it worse, we have Claire coming up. In the games, Claire is good, but her anime movesets might make her even better. Ash's Johto team is not equipped for this fight, so in the anime, he just doesn't use it. Instead, Ash uses Snorlax, Pikachu, and Charizard to beat Claire's dragon types, and that works. But it kinda shows how outclassed Ash thinks his Johto team really is. Claire is the 8th gym leader, and if Ash had succeeded in raising his Johto team properly, he'd have the strength to match this. But when things get serious, he kinda admits defeat and retreats back to what's familiar. Now, to be fair, one big reason why this happened in the games is because of Johto's level curve. I consider grinding on wild Pokemon to be a mission of defeat, so I'm only going to do that if I see no other option forward. The Claire matchup looks a bit hopeless right now, but Ash does add a 6th Pokemon to his team that might help. Ash's last Johto Pokemon is Phanpy, which starts with Tackle, Rollout, and Takedown. In an alternate reality where Ash only uses his Johto Pokemon, I think this one is his best 3rd choice against Claire. Will Phanpy, Bayleaf, and Pikachu be enough to defeat Claire's terrifying Draconic trio? Let's find out. My first attempt does not go well. Pikachu misses Thunder and gets one-shot by Kingdra's Hydro Pump. Bayleaf survives 2 Hyper Beams and paralyzes Kingdra with Body Slam, but Claire uses a Hyper Potion and takes out my Grass type. Then Phanpy does chip damage and gets OHKO'd by Hydro Pump. Okay, so I didn't even get past the first Mon. That is not good. My 2nd and 3rd try, the same thing happens. On my 4th try, I get lucky with Paralysis and make it to our 2nd Pokemon. Dragonair crits Phanpy with Hyper Beam for a one-shot, then finishes Pikachu with the same move. On my 7th try, I finally get to Gyarados, which one-shots Phanpy with Hydro Pump. On my 8th try though, things finally line up. Bayleaf survives Hyper Beam at 1 HP, then KOs Kingdra because Claire can't use a Hyper Potion during her recharge turn. Because Bayleaf is still in, Claire sends out Gyarados next. This lets Pikachu take out the Gyarados with Thunderbolt, giving me a 2v1 against Dragonair. Pikachu deals a ton of damage to Dragonair with Thunder before getting taken out with Hyper Beam, which is perfect. On her recharge turn, Claire can't heal Dragonair, so Phanpy comes in, uses Takedown, and finishes off Claire's ace. It took 8 attempts, but Ash's Johto team is capable of beating Claire. That said, this battle requires so much luck that I'm not comfortable giving Ash's team the victory. So I'll grade this battle as bailed out by Kanto, because Ash's Johto team is just so outmatched in this one. Going into the league, Ash's team gets a few upgrades. Totodile theoretically learns Scary Face and Slash, but in our playthrough, Ash doesn't face enough trainers to help Totodile get there, at least for now. Bayleaf learns Headbutt, which is actually a super nice move for it when combined with Paralysis from Body Slam. Then, Fanpy gets Defense Curl and Earthquake. Earthquake is the headline move here, and it's obviously amazing, but Defense Curl is also pretty useful for powering up Rollout. Normally in the games, Ash would face the Elite Four next, but we're following Ash's anime journey. Therefore, before we can get to the Elites, I made a few modifications and added in the Silver League. After passing his preliminary rounds, Ash has to face Macy and Vincent in a 3-way round robin. Each trainer gets 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss. And the trainer with the most points advances to the final bracket. If the trainers tie for the lead, they redo the round again until someone comes out on top. First of all, I just want to say, this round robin is dumb. I like the idea, but draws in Pokemon battles are rare, and it's way too easy for this system to end in a 3-way tie. I'm just imagining a Grass-type trainer, a Fire-type trainer, and a Water-type trainer all matched up in one bracket. Then, they all get 3 points 8 times in a row, forcing the entire rest of the tournament to wait for them. I like the idea of a round robin, and I like the idea of a single loss not being enough to knock a trainer out of the tournament, but this is not the way to do it. Ash's first opponent is Macy, who leads with Slugma. Ash leads with Totodile, which dodges Slugma's Flamethrower and uses Water Gun. Slugma dodges with Double Team, and the two go back and forth until Totodile breaks through. Seeing she's at a disadvantage, Macy recalls Slugma and sends out Electabuzz. Macy's feeling proud of herself for bringing an Electric type to stop Ash's Water types, but Ash is a step ahead of her, subbing out Totodile for Fanpy. Macy tries Thunderbolting Fanpy, but Electabuzz is not Pikachu, so it doesn't work. Before Fanpy can do anything aggressive, Macy recalls Electabuzz to bring out Slugma again. Fanpy hits Slugma with Earthquake and Rollout, then Slugma retaliates with Flamethrower, which Fanpy blocks with Defense Curl. Slugma uses Body Slam, but Fanpy dodges, uses Earthquake, then finishes off the Slugma with Takedown. Macy sends out Quilava next, and Ash starts with Rollout. Macy uses Flame Wheel, sending Fanpy flying. Quilava follows up with Quick Attack, then overcomes Fanpy with a Flame Wheel, knocking out the Elephant. Totodile comes out, and Macy sends out Electabuzz. Electabuzz blocks Water Gun with Light Screen, then uses Thunder Punch, knocking Totodile out. Then Ash's Squirtle comes in and defeats both of Macy's remaining Pokemon in a tough battle. I'm not going to go over it in detail since I can't test the strategy in that section, but I'm proud of Squirtle. He's come a long way since his terrible performance in Kanto. If Ash had to choose from his Johto team, I think he'd bring in Cyndaquil as his third Pokemon, so that's what he's going to do here. Everyone in the Silver Conference earned 8 badges, which means everyone here either beat Claire or an equivalently skilled trainer. Therefore, I'm going to give these trainers levels on par with Claire, with buffs to their aces. For Macy and Vincent, I'm making the first 2 Pokemon level 39, then making their ace level 41. We start with Slugma versus Totodile. Totodile may be a first stage Pokemon and underleveled, but Slugma is really bad. With a few Water Guns, we see what would have happened if Macy hadn't switched out. Totodile defeats Slugma and gives Ash the first point. Macy sends in Electabuzz, and Ash immediately switches to Fanpy on a Thunderbolt. Instead of switching out, Macy uses Light Screen, and Fanpy one-shots Electabuzz with Earthquake. Quilava comes in, deals a ton of damage with Flamethrower, and Fanpy does a bit of chip damage with Rollout before fainting. Next, Ash sends in Totodile, which gets taken out immediately by Flamethrower. Last, we have Cyndaquil versus its evolved form, and they both use Flamethrower. The evolved Pokemon simply outdamages its basic counterpart, and Cyndaquil faints. Ash's strategies were so close, but that Quilava was too much. Macy wins, and Ash loses his first match. Ash isn't out of the Silver Conference yet, though. If he can beat Vincent, Vincent beats Macy, he can still play for a round-robin rematch. Let's check out the anime to prepare our strategy. Vincent sends out Azumarill while Ash sends out Pikachu. Azumarill uses Water Gun, which Pikachu dodges with Quick Attack. Azumarill dodges, so Pikachu uses Thunderbolt, which Azumarill blocks with Bubble Beam. Azumarill uses Icy Wind, lowering Pikachu's speed. Then, Azumarill hits Pikachu with Iron Tail, but Pikachu grabs onto Azumarill's tail and launches a point-blank Thunder, knocking the bunny out. Jackson sends out a shiny Magneton next, which is a menace. Both Pokemon hit with Thunderbolt, then Pikachu uses Quick Attack. Magneton dodges and counters with Thunder Wave, which paralyzes Pikachu. Without being able to move, Pikachu is easy pickings for a Tri-Attack, giving Magneton the win. Ash sends out Cyndaquil next, dodging a Thunderbolt and using Flamethrower. Magneton dodges and uses Thunder Wave, but Cyndaquil dodges using Smokescreen. The Fire-type hits with Swift, then uses Flamethrower, but Magneton dodges with Double Team, surrounding Cyndaquil. With a favorable position, Magneton hits Cyndaquil with the Thunder Wave Tri-Attack combo, winning Jackson a second point. Then, Bulbasaur knocks out Magneton and draws Meganium. I want to point out that in the anime, Ash's Pikachu got 1 KO in this round, Ash's 2 Johto Pokemon got 1 KO, and his 2 Kanto Pokemon got 4 KOs. Could Ash still win this battle when he's running Bayleaf instead of Bulbasaur? Let's find out. We start with Pikachu versus Azumarill. Pikachu uses Thunderbolt to deal half, but takes an Icy Wind in the process. Pikachu deals some chip damage with Quick Attack, Azumarill fires back with Bubble Beam, then Ash finishes off the rabbit with Thunder. Just like in the anime, it's 1-0 Ash. Pikachu deals a bit of damage to Magneton with Thunderbolt, but Magneton's Thunderbolt is too much, knocking out our mouse. Cyndaquil comes in next, and here's where we get our first major change of the battle. Flamethrower takes out Magneton, and Ash is suddenly in a commanding lead. Flamethrower is the obvious play, but I want to see a Meganium versus Bayleaf battle, so I switch into the Grass type. Vincent's AI seems weirdly obsessed with Solar Beam, and I make an executive decision to use Body Slam with Bayleaf. Sure, Ash's Bulbasaur used a lot of Grass type moves in this battle, but Bulbasaur didn't know Body Slam. Bayleaf outdamages Meganium in a close fight, and Ash beats Vincent convincingly with his Johto team. In the anime, Macy defeats Vincent, so if that result stayed the same but Ash's results were changed, Macy would advance with 6 points. However, Macy versus Vincent was close, and probably could have gone either way depending on what the plot demanded. I don't want to write Ash out of the league just yet. In our alternate universe, we'll pretend Vincent beats Macy, giving Ash one more chance at the round robin. This time, Ash is going to do the same thing but make one tiny change. Instead of using Rollout against Quilava, Phanpy is just going to use Earthquake against the Firestarter. This is enough to let Ash absolutely dominate Macy, winning 3-0. If we assume Ash beats Vincent again in the rematch, he wins the second round robin with 6 points and advances to the final bracket. I'm going to grade the fight against Macy as Ash had the Pokemon but not the strategies, because using Rollout instead of Earthquake against Quilava is certainly a choice of all time. Ash's prep for this battle was good, and Phanpy was an inspired choice, but he wasn't a good enough battler to use Phanpy to its full potential. This sets us up for one of the most hyped up battles in the Pokemon anime. Ash faces Gary in a rivalry matchup for the ages. I think Gary and Harrison are both a step above Macy and Vincent, so I'm going to give them a full team of level 40s with their ace set at level 45. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Ash's Johto team has 0 chance of beating Gary. Ash knows it too, as he uses a ton of Kanto Pokemon against his rival. Most of the Gary fight is irrelevant to our strategies, but let's see if we can get any tips from Ash on how to handle it. We'll speed through most of this fight, only highlighting the important bits of strategy that involve our Johto team. Gary gets an early lead as Nidoqueen defeats Tauros. Then, Ash sends out Heracross? Wait, seriously? Heracross's major battling debut is the most important battle of Ash's life to this point? I guess I'd better get him from the daycare. Gary is apparently also playing on Switch mode, because even without battling, he returns Nidoqueen and sends out Magmar. Heracross dodges Flamethrower and lands Fury Swipes, but Magmar responds with a Fire Blast, scoring a point-blank hit. Magmar follows it up with a Flamethrower, but Heracross, blows the flames away with its wings to survive the attack. Heracross then retaliates with a Megahorn, charging through Magmar's Flamethrower, knocking out the Fire-type. I'm sorry, anime. What the heck was that? I'll try it, but there is 0 chance that ever happens in-game. You can't just use wings to blow away a Fire-type weakness. The type chart doesn't work like that. Gary responds by sending out Blastoise and finishing off Heracross with Hydro Pump. Ash tries to fight Blastoise with Muck, gets overwhelmed, then sends in Bayleaf. Bayleaf dodges Blastoise's Hydro Pump by using Vine Whip to jump, then fires at Blastoise with Razor Leaf. Blastoise uses Rapid Spin to stop the leaves, so Bayleaf comes in with a Body Slam. Blastoise uses Bite to grab Bayleaf, spins it around, and launches the Grass type to knock it out. After that, Ash and Gary put up a great back and forth battle. Ash slowly scrapes himself back into the match and takes out Gary's Blastoise with his Charizard in an epic finale. Still, he only used 2 Johto Pokemon here, only one of which had any meaningful experience in Johto. He clearly trusted his older Kanto Pokemon more than he does his Johto team, and he's right to. His Johto team has been scraping by, but it's super top heavy and underleveled. As Ash challenges Gary with his Johto team, he faces cold, hard reality. Ash leads with Phanpy against Gary's Nidoqueen. Phanpy takes down Gary's Pokemon with 2 Earthquakes, taking a ton of damage from Hyper Beam in the process. Then, Gary sends in Blastoise and the battle starts going downhill fast. Ash switches to Bayleaf, taking a hard-hitting Hydro Pump. Then, Blastoise outspeeds, uses Hydro Pump again, crits, and takes out Bayleaf before Ash's Grass type can do any damage to it. Pikachu deals heavy damage with Thunder, and Blastoise strikes again, one-shotting Pikachu with Hydro Pump. Totodile comes in to drain Blastoise's Hydro Pump PP and uses Scary Face to lower its speed, but Ash's Water Starter also faints. Phanpy defeats Blastoise with 2 Earthquakes, and Cyndaquil is able to turn things around against Scizor, but then Golem comes out. Since Blastoise took out both of Ash's Golem counters, the Rock Pokemon rolls through Ash's remaining team. This is enough for me to call it. If Ash somehow managed to get his way through Claire with his Johto team, he could have scraped his way to Gary, but he couldn't have beaten his rival. Therefore, I'm grading both the Gary and Harrison fights as bailed out by Kanto, because Ash's Johto team doesn't get him close to winning these battles. This feels like a bad place to end the video, though. So let's explore another alternate universe, one where the night before his battle against Gary, Ash discovers the belly-drumming Blissey convention. This crazy place helps him level up his entire team to level 40, giving him the levels he needs to stand up to Gary.
Trainers, have we got a match for you today? Ash Ketchum and Gary Oak, childhood rivals from Palatown, are facing off in an epic clash of skill. Ash brings wild battle strategy against Gary's incredible array of heavy-hitting moves. Which one will come out on top? Gary leads with Nidoqueen, while Ash leads with Phanpy. Ash has the typing advantage, but can Gary make something happen?
Nidoqueen, Strength!
Phanpy, take it down with Earthquake!
Wow, Phanpy shrugged off that strength and is shaking the entire arena with an Earthquake. Nidoqueen is trying to stop it with a devastating Hyper Beam, but that Phanpy just doesn't stop its attack. Nidoqueen is down, and the point goes to Ash.
Not bad, Ashy boy. Guess I need to take you seriously. Blastoise, go! Use Hydro Pump!
And just like that, Gary sent out his strongest Pokemon. Before he can even react, Blastoise obliterates Phanpy with a Hydro Pump, tying the score at 1-1.
I knew you'd use Blastoise, and I have the perfect counter. Come on out, Bayleaf! Use Razor Leaf!
Ash sends out Bayleaf and launches a string of Razor Leafs at Blastoise. Gary's Blastoise uses Rapid Spin to deflect the leaves, then charges with a massive Skull Bash. Whoa, that gotta hurt. Bayleaf is sent careening backwards, but it looks like it's still able to fight. Blastoise is charging up its cannons now in the back and forth brawl, but what's this? Razor Leaf just scored a critical hit, and Gary's strongest Pokemon is down.
Way to go, Bayleaf! I knew you could do it!
That's okay, Blastoise. Go Magmar, use Fire Blast!
And just like that, Magmar evens up the score at 2 Pokemon apiece with a blazing assault. Ash is going to need to think carefully about which Pokemon he sends in next.
Heracross, I choose you! Use Fury Attack!
Ash sends in Heracross. This might be a mistake, giving himself the type disadvantage, but maybe he knows something we don't. Can Ash overcome the odds and defeat his counter?
Pretty stupid move, Ash, using Heracross against my Fire type. Magmar, burn it up with Fire Blast!
Heracross, use your wings to put out the fire and charge in with Mega Horn!
Fire Blast scores a direct hit! Is this the end of Heracross? Wait, no way! Heracross gets back up, putting the fire out with its wings, then charges in with a Mega Horn. Magmar is down! I can't believe it! Heracross takes out Magmar and earns the point for Ash!
Pretty nice moves, Ash, but this battle is just getting started. Arcanine, go! Finish Heracross off with your own Fire Blast!
Gary sends in Arcanine as his next Pokemon. Heracross moves first with a powerful Mega Horn attack, but Arcanine responds with a second Fire Blast. Heracross goes down, but it really pulled off an incredible battle.
That was awesome, Heracross! Have a good rest. Go Totodile!
Ash sends in a Water type against Gary's second Fire type, but Gary doesn't seem worried in the slightest. Totodile starts the battle with Scary Face, and Arcanine responds with Fire Blast. The Fire Blast hits hard, but Totodile is standing strong, and Arcanine is moving slowly. Taking advantage, Totodile is coming in close. Arcanine's trying to jump away, but Totodile is too fast, hitting the Fire type with a powerful Slash attack. Arcanine is down, Ash keeps the lead.
Alright, Caesar, let's do this. Swift attack.
And just like that, when Ash gets an advantage, Gary closes it immediately. Swift knocks out Totodile, and this battle is 2-2.
A Sizer, huh? Well, I have the perfect Pokemon for that. Go, Cyndaquil! Use Flamethrower!
We have Cyndaquil versus Caesar. Cyndaquil starts the battle with a powerful Flamethrower, and Caesar has no chance. Ash has 2 fully healthy Pokemon to Gary's 1. Gary stayed close this entire time. Was the strongest Pokemon out of the match? Is Professor Oak's grandson finished?
Gotta say, you had me scared for a second there, but it's checkmate now. I saved this one for just this situation. Come on out, Golem.
For his last Pokemon, Gary pulls out Golem. Cyndaquil starts things off with Flamethrower, but it doesn't do much against the Rock type. Ash follows it up with Smokescreen, but Golem just rolls through it. Cyndaquil is down, and we're bound to the final battle.
Come on, Pikachu, you can do it!
I thought so. End this, Golem.
And for his last Pokemon, Ash sends out Pikachu. The Electric type goes in for a quick attack, but Golem hits with Rollout. Pikachu is struggling to get back up to its feet, and Golem is still going. We're waiting on the ref's call, and Pikachu is officially down. Gary Oak defeats Ash Ketchum and will advance to the next round of the Silver Conference.
So, in my first battle against Gary, even with enough levels to match his team, Ash still loses. Actually, scratch that. I lost with Ash's team, and Ash's strategies weren't even to blame. I was. I can't believe the Crystal AI outplayed me, but that's exactly what happened. Gary overloaded me with fire types, and I got sucked into the super effective trap, letting Totodile go down early. Then, when Golem finally appeared, I'd lost all of Ash's counters to it, so I went down without using Pikachu in the battle at all. The crazy thing is that Ash's 2 strategies that I incorporated here actually worked out in this battle. Gary kinda threw his Blastoise, letting Bayleaf take it out with Razor Leaf. Then, Heracross somehow managed to take out Magmar, which, I honestly have no idea how it happened. I guess badge boosts and stat experience are a thing, but I didn't think they would matter that much. The Calcs do not have this matchup as particularly close, but I think I can no longer legally complain about this scene. It's possible. Somehow. My next attempt, I use Pikachu and Cyndaquil more actively against Gary's fire types, nearly take out Arcanine with Heracross, and leave Totodile for Golem. This time, Ash's Cyndaquil takes out Gary's Caesar for a very close 1-0 victory. So, with equal levels, Ash's team can definitely win, though I still think Gary's team is better overall. There's one more test of the anime left. When Ash beats Gary, he has to face Harrison next, a tough trainer from the Hoenn region. To set up Harrison's team, I needed to get a bit creative, replacing Celebi and Ho-Oh's data in the Pokedex with that of Kecleon and Blaziken. It's a janky solution, but it works well enough. This video is going super long, so we aren't going to go through all of Ash's strategies the way we have with every other fight, but I'll just give you some highlights. Pikachu takes out Kecleon with Quick Attack and Thunderbolt. Totodile takes out Sneasel by biting its hand and hitting Sneasel on the ground while dancing. Noctowl makes its first major appearance since Morty, hitting Steelix with Confusion before getting taken out by Dig and Irontail. Then Bayleaf uses a particularly impressive anime strategy against Houndoom, muzzling its mouth with Vine Whip and finishing it with Body Slam. Ash actually uses a few of his Johto Pokemon here and gets a couple of KOs with them, though the star of the show is definitely Charizard. Does a leveled up Ash stand a chance with the Fire Lizard? Well, in my first battle, where I tried to use Ash's strategies, things go disastrously. Pikachu uses Quick Attack on turn 1 before switching to Thunderbolt, allowing Kecleon to knock it out. Cyndaquil defeats Kecleon, but then Hypno comes out, and Ash gets destroyed. With Hypnosis, Dream Eater, and Psychic, Hypno sweeps Ash's entire team. I try again, this time having Pikachu spam Thunderbolt, letting it defeat Kecleon. Harrison sends out Steelix, so I switch to Noctowl, using Hypnosis after Steelix fails to land Dig. Now that the Steelix is asleep, Cyndaquil is free to come in and burn the Steel Snake to a crisp. Harrison sends out Hypno next, so I use Smokescreen before switching into Noctowl. Hypno puts it to sleep and deals some damage with Dream Eater, but Noctowl wakes up, putting Hypno to sleep. I switch to Bayleaf and try and chip it down with Body Slam. Hypno wakes up, Bayleaf paralyzes the Nightmare Fiend with Body Slam, but then gets put to sleep by Hypnosis. I switch to Phanpy and take out Hypno with Earthquake, then Harrison sends in Sneasel. I send in Cyndaquil, taking a couple Shadow Balls before knocking it out with Flamethrower. Harrison sends in Houndoom, so I try to test out what a Sleeping Bayleaf can do, and yeah, Flamethrower one-shots the Grass type. No Heracross moment here. Totodile comes in to lower Houndoom's speed with Scary Face and deals some damage with Water Gun, but Houndoom is too powerful, KOing my Water type with Bite. Pikachu tries to take out Houndoom with Thunderbolt, but it's not enough, and suddenly Harrison's dog has taken out 3 Pokemon. Noctowl gets revenge with Tackle, and suddenly it's a 2v1 versus Harrison's Blaziken. The Hoenn starter takes out Noctowl with Flamethrower, and it's all up to Phanpy. Blaziken connects with Flamethrower, dealing so much damage, but Phanpy survives on 10 HP. In return, Phanpy uses Earthquake, and it's not enough. Harrison wins, and Ash once again is booted out of the Silver League. The solution for Harrison is just use Heracross instead of Cyndaquil. I tried to avoid this because I felt like Ash probably wouldn't have used Heracross for this battle, but it's actually really good here. This time, Bayleaf defeats Kecleon, Phanpy takes out Houndoom with Earthquake, and Heracross one-shots Sneasel with Meghorn. Then, Noctowl takes out Blaziken with very good Hypnosis Luck and Confusion, Totodile takes care of Steelix with Water Gun, and Heracross one-shots Hypno with Megahorn. Ash wins a hard-fought 3-0 victory. I continued playing after this. The first 4 members of the league aren't too bad, but Lance is a massive wall for Ash. After defeating Harrison, I gave Ash access to every upgrade his team could possibly get. Phanpy evolves into Donphan, Cyndaquil into Quilava, and Pikachu gains a Light Ball, but it's still not enough. Our protagonist really has nothing for Dragon types, and on my first playthrough I only got through this because Lance somehow missed with a Blizzard with Dragonite, then missed the Hyper Beam with Aerodactyl, allowing Donphan to OHKO both Pokemon with Rollout. Ash defeats all the Kanto gym leaders with ease up until Blue, who takes me a few tries to beat. Then, Red's levels are way too much for Ash, and I never beat him. I'm rushing over the post-game because while I wanted to mention that I played through it, I just don't think it says very much about Ash's team. So let's head back to the main question of this video. Was Ash a good trainer in Johto? Well, his arc is actually a lot more complicated than I expected coming into this. In terms of battle strategy, I'd say yes, Ash did grow a ton as a trainer. In the first couple gyms, Ash battled by instinct while ignoring typing, and his instincts didn't always pay off. Chikorita didn't put up very good performances in the flying and bug type gyms, and because of that, Ash started thinking more strategically. He very clearly took typing into account when battling Morty, Chuck, Jasmine, and Price, centering his strategy around Pokemon that had good moves or typings that countered his opponent. He continued using his type chart in the Silver League, bringing Phanpy to counter Macy's Electabuzz, and gaining the type advantage against Finston every time he swapped in a new Pokemon. However, Ash didn't do everything right. Losing Chikorita in the first 2 gyms also taught Ash a different lesson about trust, one that might have prevented him from beating Harrison and winning the Silver League. Sending out Chikorita twice in the first 2 gyms was a gamble, and while it probably paid off long-term with Bayleaf, it's one that didn't really feel like it paid off in the moment. Ash learned that when the going gets tough, he should default to Pikachu, regardless of whether the choice really makes sense. Ash battled the rest of the gym leaders in a way that felt shockingly safe, defaulting to his stronger Pokemon with good type matchups and robbing the rest of his team of valuable experience. Then, when Ash saw Claire's power in his first fight against her, he decided his regular team wouldn't be able to cut it against the Dragon Pokemon, so he stopped trying with them. These aren't my words, that's straight up what Brock said when Ash called out Snorlax against her Kingdra. When playing this, I realized that in Johto, Ash made a lot of in-the-moment decisions that prioritized short-term value over long-term growth. I know that because I had to constantly make those same decisions during my playthrough, prioritizing the training of the Pokemon that countered the next gym leader at the cost of the strength of my overall team. From the perspective of the video game, there was probably no way to avoid this issue with Ash's team while getting through the game. Especially when most gym battles are 2v2s, Ash needed to hyper-focus training specific Pokemon to have a chance against the leader, and there just wasn't enough experience in the game to properly train his full team without a ton of extra grinding. However, I really think there's something to this conclusion, and it sets up Ash's final decision in Johto perfectly. By the end of the season, Ash recognizes the mistakes he made in Johto, and decides to try again in Hoenn, but this time without his Kanto mons except Pikachu. Ash recognized to use Pikachu and his Kanto Pokemon as a crutch in Johto. When Ash's Johto team wasn't good enough, Ash didn't need to find a clever way to make them stronger, because he could always just default to his old reliable partners. This lack of trust and lower standards for his Johto Pokemon hurt their development. So while Ash's battle strategy improved, his team building stagnated. In Hoenn, Ash is trying again, without his training wheels, determined to fix his mistakes and place more trust in the Pokemon he raises. Will he fix his Johto issues and continue improving in Pokemon Emerald? Stay tuned for my next video to find out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.